Okay, so those of you know, if you follow me on Twitter, I covered the patch notes last night. They came out really late for me, and I had already fallen asleep, and I need to go to work. But then, work didn't happen, and here I am early in the morning covering these patch notes. I do know what they are, and they're incredibly disappointing. And personally, I think this is the worst patch of all time. We need to have a really long discussion about balance and what balance is, because I personally think Overwatch has lost the plot like crazy. I'm not just gonna wait in time. We'll go through the patch and we'll talk about why this is one of the worst patches ever, right? So if not, I think generally this might take the cake for being one of the worst patches. There is some good in here. I will be fair. There is some good in here. For example, which is the hazard changes. People were catching on fast that Hazard's kinda OP, right? And he's really strong still. So his spike guard damage reduction has been reduced from 65% to 60. That's actually really good. Violent Leap ability 1 damage reduced from 80 to 70. So that is also really good. These are nice. Like this is like sure, right? Like we're toning down Hazard. Like Hazard, he's got a good skill ceiling to him. Like as people begin to figure him out more and more, they realize, okay, Hazard's actually a pretty good tank, right? He's very good in 6v6 as well, so this is not that bad, right? Ramatra gets a minor buff. They kind of completely gutted Ramatra, and the way his they've just made him like super clunky, and he's become a lot more exposed in his nemesis form, since he cannot weave in and out of his block anymore consistently, because there's now a full 1 second delay, and in Overwatch that's a big difference, right? Because if he's weaving in and out of the 1 second, and let's say you're playing Orisa, you can time your javelin throw to like playing around that and just destroying the guy. So Ramatra, he needed this. Like it's not like he didn't need this, but it's just kind of like interesting that we're like soft buffing, like like micro buffing Ram. Like it's just interesting. I don't mind Ram personally. I do hate blockbot Ram. It would be nice if we could see him go a more brawl route, but it is what it is. Roadhog. This is the first actually bad patch change in here, because Roadhog was actually a bit of a sleeper pick, and as people were getting used to old school Hog again, they realized, wait, old school Hog is actually kind of not bad. Borderline A tier, like, but a good B tier pick that works in the right hands, right? A good friend of mine, he's a solid Hog player as well. His name's Nain. He was giving the breakdown on why Hog is actually good, and he's actually very strong in 6v6. And it turns out that they just Giga-Buffed Hog. So now, for the first time ever, if I'm not mistaken, Hog can actually one-shot Ana's hitbox. That's how damn good this Roadhog changes, right? With the scrap gun crit multiplier going to 2.x instead of 1.5. Yeah, and the take a breather, the resource regeneration has been increased from 10 resource per second to 12.5 per second. This is ridiculous. Like they've not only made him tankier, they also make him more lethal. The point of balance when it comes to these things is that you balance the idea of lethality with a character being more squishy or glass cannony, or you balance the idea of a character being more tanky, but their weakness is that they don't have like insane damage. For example, as much as we all hate this character, Orisa doesn't necessarily have really good lethality. Like she can over the course of a team fight, like with follow up, but like by herself, her potential to duel is really skewed by the spread of her weapon, if she misses a javelin, etc., etc., right? And the compensation is that, well, Orisa is really good with fortify because she's good at staying alive and drawing out resources, and that's what makes her really damn strong. That's not to say Orisa doesn't have moments where she can definitely pop off. She most certainly can, but there's a little bit more, at least for Overwatch standards, a little bit better control of that lethality versus survivability. Now, Roadhog not only has the survivability increase, but he also got the lethality. You just don't do that. That's just not how game balance works, right? And we'll talk about balance in a lot more depth, like perhaps either a little bit in today's video, and I'm going to break down why Overwatch's balance is struggling, right? And it's been a pattern that's been there for years. And I've been playing Rivals, Deadlock, and League of Legends again, and it made me realize, man, holy crap, like big patch number changes and sticking to a philosophy does so much for a game when you don't beat around the bush and you keep like just micro changing things. And Overwatch's problem is that literally almost all their patches now are micro changes, with every now and then like a squeeze of where an actual balance change happens. Like for example, like so far everything has been micro changes, except for this one. This is like a genuine nerf, right? Which is good. Like there should be a little bit more, like maybe power distribution, whatever. But this is also the opposite of the hazard changes. This is actually a surprisingly huge buff, and it's just kind of like, well, is this what we actually want? Anyways, moving on over, we go to Wrecking Ball. He gets again a micro nerf. This is like one of the most ignorable things ever. So Minefield goes down to 16 seconds. This is needed. Like Minefield stays up for way too long. It's like whatever. It doesn't nerf Ball directly, but it's nice for the the gold players that refuse to shoot minefield, right? And then quad cannons, his ammo goes down to about 80 from 100, which is again, if you play ball, like this is whatever. You don't necessarily care about this. It's not something that bothers you. That's not even where the strength is right now, which is whatever, right? Now this is where things get a lot more controversial. Deflect has been increased to a 10-second cooldown, and Genji's strength in the current meta is around his sustainability. They've also leaned in to his perks, giving him sustainability. Whether it is the deflect perk that allows him to heal in pro play, at least that perk is being taken a lot, and it makes a huge difference in pro play. I've also been taking the deflect perk a lot lately because even I can't like it does come up in duels. It pairs really well with either of the minor perks, and it's incredibly damn good when you're dragon blading and you're getting lifesteal from it, and then you're deflecting, and you're just really like being able to say like. Now a lot of people argue that Genji shouldn't go to 225, but my problem is just like, well, actually I think Genji going to 225 and a small lethality increase would be a lot better. Like I would rather have more glass cannon characters than characters that are so good at sustaining themselves, right? Arguably, you could argue that Genji's change to making his projectiles even faster was a bit too effective, right? So maybe we could revert that. There's so many things we could have done to nerf him. The HP could go to 225. You could nerf dash to 10 seconds with the argument that they could mention in a dev note that, hey, the reason we nerfed the dash is because, well, the new perk pairs really well. It comes on very like quickly. Like by the time you have your first ult, you have the perk that's online. So what we're trying to do is balance it out. Like if you're gonna be like canceling the 10 seconds with your melees, then you guys see where I'm going with this, right? Like I'm still a little bit sleepy because I'm recording this at like 8 a.m. But this is just stupid. Like the weirdest part is that I played with this for a little bit. Like I've been up since 6 a.m. and I've played with this. I played a couple of ranked games, I played a couple of quick plays, and like you feel it. But if you're disciplined enough with deflect, it's like it's whatever. And you know what the worst part about like this is, when you get a change that's whatever and people adjust to it, usually when Blizzard comes back to nerf the character, they don't revert a certain nerf. And this is one of those nerfs where it's like this deflect nerf is going to be forgotten about over time, and then when they approach Genji to nerf him again, because they didn't actually nerf what made him strong, they're gonna forget about this deflect nerf and they're just gonna nerf something else, and he's gonna feel even worse to play. And I'm gonna have a video on this coming soon, because this direction for the game is progressively, granted on a very slow pace, is making the game feel worse to play over time. Like Overwatch progressively is becoming a slower and jankier game rather than its strength, which was the buttery smooth, low cooldown, like mid-tier impact gameplay. We've seen this happen. Like Junkrat's mine has gone up, I believe, as well by a couple of seconds. We have like Ana's nade going up to like I think 16 seconds, 14 seconds depending on the mode. We've had like so many of these cases, and there's a character who's been shadow nerfed where they also went up to a certain amount of like 10 seconds of a cooldown because they refused to nerf it, although it's not mentioned. Now scrolling down here, the next character that got nerfed is Hanzo, no longer having larger projectile sizes compared to regular arrows. To be honest with you guys, I don't mind this nerf. It's not that bad. Like first of all, I'm happy Hanzo is stronger. Like I think you guys finally see the vision of why I've been saying Hanzo is strong, because he actually is not that bad. He's actually pretty damn good right now. This is fine. Like if you know how to line up your shots and you know how to control your primary fire, this is fine. Like this is actually like this is one of those like it's a nerf but not really. It's like sure, we can take this. Like it's not a bad thing, right? Personally, if they did want to nerf storm arrows, maybe what I would do is I would increase the ammo count of storm arrow by 1, but I would decrease the damage by like 15 or 20, right? So it's like, okay, you have more storm arrows to play with. It won't be as felt in duels, where it does help Hanzo in duels, but against bursting down tanks it should be a little bit less effective, because one of the best things to do with storm arrows is you just spam a tank, they blow up, and you just like from that point on a good Hanzo can just like snipe one more and your team steamrolls. So he's not meta by any means. He's not like in the top DPS lineup. He is strong, and yes, he can be frustrating to play against, but I will still keep it real with you guys. There's a million ways to deal with Hanzo. Like, come on, guys. Like, we can't just gut our characters we make healthy, right? And he is a pretty decently mid to high tier skill ceiling character, because lining up his shots and everything does take a lot of skill, right? And there's a lot of things that can screw him over. Now, I'm not a fan of this change. Like, Torbjorn's getting this is a ridiculous change, and Overlord is going up to 6 seconds instead of 5. This is a huge deal for him. And then Molten Core, the damage has been increased from 160 to 190. Not a fan of this. Again, we're seeing a couple of breakpoint changes here and there with the idea that, well, we want these characters to be played more. We want them to perform a little bit more. And Torb is just one of those characters that you don't really want meta. You don't want him anywhere near high level play. There's an argument to be made that one of the reasons they've done this as well is so that maybe people are encouraged to play Torb a lot more, and he can. He's a pretty decent counter to dive as well. It's not like he's the best to go to that, but you can pick him. He does a really good job with the wall turn perk at pressuring and countering Tracer. But this is still one of those things that's for the low elo, like where Torbjorn might be a lot more popular, and people struggle to deal with them because whether it's the attention span or like locating the turret and shooting it down, this is going to be a big game changer. I just don't agree with this, right? Tracer, this is genuinely the biggest joke in the history of patch notes, and this is exactly this one tab is exactly what's wrong with Overwatch's balance, right? Perk cost increased by 25%. If I need to explain to you why this is a joke of a patch, why this specific note is really bad, and what it spells for the future of the game, then we have like I'm scared. I'm scared for you. I'm scared for me. I'm scared for all of us because the entire idea of perks is that perks is not an excuse not to balance the game properly. Okay, and while there are some number changes here and there, they need to be a lot more aggressive about it sometimes if they truly want to shake up the game. But there's a really good argument to also be made. The reason the game's meta doesn't shift up enough is also because the game just doesn't see characters being added more frequently. Now, I will talk about this in another video. I don't want to drag this one out. Widowmaker, this was honestly to be expected because they are trying to make Widowmaker more and more and more of a generalist character without necessarily buffing her sniper rifle. The cooldown going down to 10 seconds for grappling hook. This is huge, by the way. Venom mine damage going up to 125. This is like, this is really strong, but it's like, it's going to be really good at marking tracers and flankers, but if you're able to trigger them quickly, then it's whatever, right? This might work really well with her new major perk where the Venom mine starts shooting somebody. I kind of want to see how that would work in practice. I think it'd be something interesting. Now this is a pretty nice buff. So Brigitte is a character who's I wouldn't say she's been struggling that much, but like, it's not bad if she gets something like shield bash damage goes up to 70. Now again, they are trying to find ways to counter Tracer without necessarily having to address Tracer at the moment, like fully directly. And of course the shield bash, like, you bash into Tracer, you like shift onto her, you'll be able to force recall, excuse me, really easily. And it is what it is. There's a minor perk fix over here, you can read that. This one is a really disconnected change. So Lucio gets nerfed in the damage department. I think this is now the second time they've nerfed his damage, where I believe it went from 24 to 22, and this is 20. What is hilarious is that Lucio is strong in his utility. So they're like, yeah, because this character is strong in utility, we're just gonna nerf the damage. It's just really dumb. Hilariously enough, Wuyang is the exact opposite of this. They nerfed Wuyang's rushing torrent. They nerfed his guardian wave. So the cooldown for rushing torrent has been increased from 7 to 8. Guardian wave has gone down. It's the healing increase that it does has been reduced from 4 to 3 seconds, and the cooldown has been increased from 12 to 14 seconds. There's a shadow nerf. This is the guy who got another shadow nerf. There's actually one more nerf in here. Oh, okay, no, they actually fixed it. Okay, last night this wasn't mentioned, like it stopped here, so they actually mentioned it that guardian wave's cooldown is going up to 14 seconds. This is ridiculous, right? Because Wuyang's strength is that Wuyang's poke damage is actually incredible, and maybe it's a bit too much, right? Because he does a lot of damage once you get going with him, and everybody agreed, like, we don't mind Wuyang's kit, like, maybe the first area we can start with is like, let's nerf his damage, because he's a little bit silly once he really hits you in the face, right? And it kind of feels like Wuyang doesn't have a weakness. Like, he has good mobility, he's very fast, being like, once you get a control of the orbs, like their hitbox is fairly forgiving as well, especially the splash damage. Maybe the splash damage could have been reduced, but we saw none of that. So it's just weird because it's like the character that is strong in their utility gets nerfed in damage, and then the character that's strong in their damage is getting nerfed in their utility. I don't know what we're doing here, Blizzard. Personally, like, this is actually some of the most bizarre and worst patch notes I've ever seen. Like, to the point that I can't even be mad. Like, it's just like, this is bound to happen. Like, it's just so bizarre. And then on the other hand, I play Stadium. I know a lot of people don't play Stadium. They basically buffed up Orisa, as you can see, give Orisa more durability. I mean, Orisa was already one of the better tanks in Stadium. I don't know why she's getting buffed in here. Sigma gets like a soft rework to certain things, so he feels better, which is like fine. This is like whatever. Tracer gets added to the game. I will say, like, the Stadium team is really good because this Pulse Star Destroyers was kind of useless on Juno, so they buffed it. That's good. Kiriko, her new build got honestly really hard nerfed, which is again really good. Stadium team is really good with their patch, but there's one thing in here that I'm a little bit disappointed about. And personally, to me, that is ironclad exhaust ports. This item is the one thing that was keeping Freya held together, because Freya doesn't necessarily have a good or decent stadium build that makes sense. It's very all over the place, because of the way the live games, Freya is handled, and because of this, she was using ironclad exhaust ports to blink around in the sky, keep herself a little bit more overhealth, and don't immediately blow up to the other hit scans that are possibly like aimbot locking onto her or something like that, or even to a good Genji. Like honestly, right? This kind of kills it, because they nerfed this item because they're anticipating that Tracer could abuse it. So the way it used to work was, if you use an ability, you give yourself overhealth. Now the overhealth only stacks once, and it gives you, and they added like an additional 10 health. So it will give you slight tankiness, but not that much. Honestly, for me, this item is now dead. I don't see myself ever using this item. It might be good on tanks and things like that for like general survivability, and maybe some supports might like using it. But this just like, to me, Freya is really awkward in Stadium now. I think Tracer will be fine because she's a fresh new character. She has all sorts of fun abilities. So, but this is just ridiculous, right? This could have been so much better. I'm really disappointed in Blizzard with this change. 3-tap Tommy gun also saw a small change, which is like sure, like they've made it stronger and kind of like increased its. Oh no, they made it. They decreased the price. Okay. Mark off the Kitsune having damage fall off. I don't know why we're doing all this damage fall off. I don't know if it's something that they're worried about Tracer abusing, but it's like none of the other characters could really take full advantage of these things anyway. So it's like, why are we nerfing everything around Tracer? It might just make it like worse on other characters. I could be wrong. Again, I'm still waking up, so you guys can like prove me if I'm wrong. But that's about it for the patch notes, everybody. What are your thoughts on the current patch? Honestly, really disappointing patch. I genuinely think this could have been better. I'm actually open-minded to Genji nerfs. That's the funny part. Like, I'm like, yeah, we can nerf him as long as we like do a good power redistribution, whatever. But whatever this patch is one of the worst patches of all time. I think, if not possibly the worst patch, because it's just so like the bar for Overwatch patches are so low. And honestly, if you don't play other games, like other competitive titles or even semi-competitive titles, give these other games a chance, because when you see how impactful their balance patches are, like I told you, I play Deadlock, I play Marvel Rivals, and I play League of Legends, and not all their patches are a hit, right? There's obviously some misses here and there, but more often than not, at least currently, at least in my personal opinion, most of their patches have been a pretty big hit. And I turn back to Overwatch and I'm like, man, Overwatch is just so scared to do anything. They're scared to tone something down. They're scared to bring something up. Um, and it's just kind of like, I want Overwatch to do it on a relative level. And what I mean by that is, you do it fairly across the board. You don't just, okay, randomly now Hog will get buffed. No. If we want to buff Hog, let's also buff like this, and this, so that perhaps like, there's a little bit more variety. There's a little bit of a fast reset. Like, oh, people won't be able to figure out what is meta because we buffed like a shit ton of things. Like, this is one of the things that makes Marvel Rivals so fun, is that whenever they do their balance matches, things go up and down like crazy. So that's just my personal opinion on it. I would love to hear your guys' thoughts down below. See you in the comments and in the next video.